Hello, my sweet sugar bushes. Welcome to another episode of Crime and Cosmetics. Today we are going to be looking at another very high profile case, and that is the case involving John Wayne Gacy. Yes, can I help you, child? What? Okay, yeah, good to hear. Give me a second. We'll take care of whatever you need. Even those of you that are not super into true crime have heard of who Mr. John Wayne Gacy is. He's also known as the Killer Clown. He's... What? Really? You're not gonna let me talk? Yeah? What do you want? Alright, give me a second. Let me go deal with this. Sorry about that. Like I said, it's a very high profile case. There's a ton of information out there, a ton of information I'm not going to be able to give to you, or this would be an incredibly long video, but I'm going to give as much information as I can without making the video too lengthy. I will give a trigger warning. I'm not really going to go into a lot of detail of how these individuals were murdered, but there is, you know, sexual assault, stuff like that in this case. So just a heads up before you continue. But like I said, we're not going to get too gruesome. I made sure to not do that. But without further ado, let's get started. I don't know what we're doing today. I think we might just do a black and gold look. I like black and gold. That's always a fun thing to do, but we'll see where we go. We'll see what happens. So like we usually do, we are going to start with this no longer walking, but at one point walking waste of spaces early life. So old John was born March 17th, 1942. He was the second born of his siblings, and he was the only son. His father's name was John Gacy, and his mother's name was Marion. His dad was an auto repair machinist. He was also a World War I veteran, and his mother was a homemaker. Gacy had a very close relationship with his mother and his two sisters. Now, his father, on the other hand, not so much. Gacy's father was a severe alcoholic and was physically abusive towards his wife and his children. Gacy would regularly be beaten and belittled by his father. His mother would attempt to defend him and help him, and his father would just say that Gacy was a sissy and that, quote, would probably grow up queer. So in 1949, when Gacy is a very young boy, him and a friend are caught sexually fondling a young girl. And I'm going to assume it wasn't consensual. I don't know. There wasn't really a ton of elaboration on that. But his father beats him with a razor strap for this. And in that same year, a family friend who was also a contractor began to periodically molest Gacy in his truck. Gacy never brought up this abuse from the family friend to his father because he was afraid that his father would blame him for it. So as Gacy got into his teens, he apparently had some kind of heart condition that stopped him from doing any kind of sports, and he was also prone to fainting spells, and I'm pretty sure that didn't go over well with his dad and the whole sissy aspect of Gacy just fainting all over the place. But anyways, his dad was very vocal about him not believing that Gacy actually had a condition. He believed that Gacy was faking it to get attention, and Gacy would regularly end up in the hospital, and his dad would tell everybody that would listen that, oh, he's just faking it, blah, 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 blah. So in 1960, at the age of 18, Gacy starts getting into politics. He starts working as an assistant precinct captain, for a Democratic Party candidate in his neighborhood. His father accused him of being a patsy for doing this. Gacy would later speculate that the only reason he really got into politics was because he was seeking acceptance from others that he never got from his father. That's an insult that has really gone out of style. A patsy? What is a patsy? A patsy, a person who is easily manipulated or victimized, a pushover. Oh, okay. So Gacy's father ends up purchasing him a vehicle, but Gacy's father keeps the title in his name, and basically tells Gacy, it's yours, you'll get the title whenever you pay it off. But whenever Gacy did something his father didn't like or didn't do what he had asked him to, he would confiscate the keys. Gacy eventually purchased an extra set of keys, so when his father confiscated the keys, he could still use the vehicle. And when he did this, his father removed the distributor cap from the vehicle and kept it for 3 days. Once he finally gave Gacy back the part, John Gacy takes off to Las Vegas. I feel like I haven't done makeup in so long. It's been a minute. Guys, I've been so busy. I have just been incredibly busy. So old Gacy skedaddles to Vegas, and when he's there, he picks up a job working for some kind of ambulance service. But soon he is transferred to work as an attendant for Palm Mortuary. He slept on a cot behind the embalming room. How fun! He worked there for 3 months until one night, when he was alone. I think you might know where this is going. He decides he is going to hop up into a casket that is currently holding a deceased teenage boy. The information I found said he caressed this deceased boy. I heard he fondled, whatever. Anyways, he gets into the casket with this boy and starts caressing him. And while he's doing this, he apparently experiences a shock, is how it was put. And this prompts him the next day to call his mother and ask if he can move back home to Chicago, which she says, let me see if your father will allow it. And his father says, yes, you can. And the next day he beats feet, fires up them Lamborghinis, and gets back to Chicago. So after returning back to the homestead, Gacy ends up graduating from Northwest Business College in 1963. He works for a shoe for some reason I didn't complete my notes, and it says he works for a shoe in a management position. He works for a shoe company in a management, that's the word, position, before transferring over to Springfield as a salesman in 1964. Now Gacy does really well in this salesman position, but most psychopaths and sociopaths are really good salesmen because they're very, very charming. They know how to manipulate and get what they want. But anyhoozle, during the year he transferred, he ends up actually becoming engaged to a co-worker named Marilyn Myers. And during this time as well, he also joined the local JCs in his area. Now, I couldn't find a ton of information on what the hell the JCs were. The Wikipedia article said it is a United States Junior Chamber. It's basically a leadership training and civic organization. I can't tell you what they do. Sounds like they're just they're just some dudes that kind of like politics, that get together and do things for their community. I don't know, man. I really don't. But in 1964, he is actually named key man in this organization he had joined. It was also the same year that Gacy had his first homosexual encounter with a colleague from this organization. So, September of 1964, that year, Gacy and Marilyn finally get married. Now, surprise, surprise, Marilyn's family was very, very wealthy. So they had this whole thing, this whole plan, this whole debacle, this whole thing, if you will. Debacle probably was not the word to use, but we are going to use it anyways. So Marilyn's father purchases 3 of the finest dining restaurants you can find. I'm talking about, you guessed it, that's right, Kentucky Fried Chicken. He purchases 3 Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants in Waterloo, Iowa. The plan is that Marilyn and Gacy, they're going to relocate to Waterloo so they can manage the restaurants. They will move into Marilyn's parents' house. Marilyn's parents had moved away and got the house ready for the couple to move in. And they will run these restaurants, and while they're doing this, Gacy would receive $15,000 a year, which is around $123,000 in today's money, as well as a share of the store's profits. That sounds like a pretty sweet deal. So we're going to clean this up here in a minute. Let's get started on this other eye. So Gacy completes some management courses that were required of him, and then the couple moves to Waterloo. So Gacy is now managing these 3 KFCs. Majority of the employees there are teenagers, so what does he do? He does the only thing a boss, a cool, chill boss does. He opens a club in his basement where his employees can come and hang out and drink alcohol and play pool, which sounds cool when you're a teenager, but as an adult, you're like, oh, your 20-something-year-old boss lets you come over and drink alcohol in his basement? That's a little weird. I don't, as a 20-something-year-old, hanging out with teenagers sounds awful. He also was like, told his employees to call him the Colonel, which would get annoying real fast. So Gacy employs teenagers that are both male, and female, healthy mix of both there, but he really only socializes with the young men. So basically what he would do when they would come hang out is he would supply them with all the alcohol they want to drink, just being a real cool boss. And once he felt they were liquored up enough, he would begin making sexual advances towards them. And if they weren't well received, he would tell the boys, oh, I was just joking, I was just playing around. Or he would tell them, if the whole, oh, I'm just playing around thing doesn't work, he would tell them that he was just testing their morals. Because that's a regular thing people do. But anyway, so Gacy and his wife end up having 2 kids. They have a son in 1966 and a daughter in 1967. This is the point in Gacy's life that he describes as perfect. He had money, he had well-ran businesses, he had a good social circle of friends, and he had finally earned his father's approval. He said that his parents had visited the couple's house, and his father in private apologized to Gacy and said that he was terribly sorry for the abuse that Gacy endured as a child, as well as that, his father basically said, I was wrong about you, and shook his hand. Which I guess is that's just what only thing Gacy wanted, I suppose. Which, I don't know, dude, like, there's no excuse for abusing your children. No excuse for abusing your children at all. I can only imagine, though, what his dad was also going through, being a World War I veteran and having no adequate help for the trauma you endured during war. PTSD probably, I think at that time, was not even a recognized condition. You know what I'm saying? Still no excuse though. So I'm using this gold that's in this goth palette that was sent to me. There is a gold in this Violet Voss palette. I'm going to use a little bit of it and see how it shows up on my face. One thing I've noticed about gold shades is they don't really transfer over to the brush super well, and that upsets me. And I always have to go over the black because the gold drops down on it. It's not the best, but whatever. So Gacy joins the local JCs in the area that he lives in good old Waterloo. He is held in high regards by its members, and in 1967, he is named, quote-unquote, outstanding vice president, and he sat on the board of directors. And from what I've read, the JCs was really just a boys' club. Apparently, they really enjoyed, getting together and watching porn together. They would swap wives, and they would regularly hire sex workers and just be slamming drugs all the time. So it really just sounded like a boys' club. It was a reason for them to party. And that's also super weird. I never understood the whole mantra of dudes watching pornography together. That just sounds so weird to me. And it's seen as this macho thing, super manly bonding thing to do, but it's you guys are watching pornography together, you're getting fully torqued with each other. That's pretty gay. There's nothing wrong with that, but I don't understand how it's seen as this super macho thing to do. I don't know, man. That is beyond me, but whatever. Let's get back on topic. So on August of 1967, Gacy, I almost said JC. Gacy lures 15-year-old Donald Voorhees into his home, telling him that they are going to watch some heterosexual stag films that is usually shown at the JC's meetings. So basically what happens is Gacy gives this kid alcohol, a bunch of it. They watch these films, and then he persuades Donald into engaging in mutual oral sex, saying, quote, "You have to have sex with a man before you start having sex with women." No flaw in that logic. So in the following months, Gacy would go on to sexually abuse several other young men. One poor young boy was convinced by Gacy to have sexual intercourse with Gacy's wife before, and then after that happens, he blackmails this kid into performing oral sex on him, which is just incredibly fucked up. Gacy also manages to trick several teenagers into believing that he was commissioned to conduct homosexual experiments in the name of scientific research, and he would pay them $50 each. So in March of 1968, Donald Voorhees finally goes to his father, Voorhees Sr., and tells him that Gacy has been sexually abusing him. He immediately tells police. They arrest Gacy and charge him with performing oral sodomy on Voorhees, as well as an attempted assault on a 16-year-old Edward Lynch. So of course, Gacy denies these allegations. He demands a polygraph test, which shows that he was nervous when admitting no wrongdoing in the relation to the charges, but didn't really come out with like any serious results. Gacy insists that these charges are politically motivated, as Voorhees Sr. was in opposition to Gacy's nomination for president of the Iowa Jaycees. And Gacy was a well-liked member in this organization. He was very well-liked in his community. You know, he did a lot. He gave people free meals, stuff like that. He always had meetings, was always doing something for his community. Again, you know, he's a sociopath and a psychopath. That's what they do. They're very, very charming. They got the gift of the gab. But people were on his side in this. They believed that there was no way Gacy was capable of doing something like this, and he had people rallying behind him. So during this time, Gacy does something that only a completely innocent person would do. You see it all the time in cases like this where the person who has been charged is innocent. They do it all the time. So basically what he does is he pays another kid to physically assault Voorhees. This attempt to get Voorhees to not testify against Gacy does not work. The boy that Gacy hires to do this goes up to Voorhees and pepper sprays him and beats the brakes off of him. And this just like really wasn't well thought through, because Voorhees goes directly to the police about this attack. Like, what did you expect was going to happen? He was going to go home, and even if he didn't go to the police and he just went home, his dad would be like, "No, we're going to the police, silly goose." Anyways, so the police pick up the individual who did this attack. Sorry, because apparently Voorhees and this kid knew each other, and he was very adamant on like not, denies any involvement. I didn't attack him, this, that, and the other. And he is very, 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 very... I don't know where I was going with that. I was like just saying very and hoping I was going to find the word along the way. But he's adamant that he doesn't, I had no involvement in that attack. But eventually he cracks and tells police that he was paid by Gacy to attack Voorhees. So Gacy is ordered to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, and it is concluded that he has antisocial personality disorder, which is the clinical name for sociopathy or psychopathy. Hey, is it psychopathy or psychopathy? Which one? I like the way psychopathy sounds. So November 7th, 1968, Gacy pleads guilty to the sodomy charges, but not guilty to the charges relating to the other teens. In Gacy's defense, he says that Voorhees presented himself to him, and Gacy only acted out of curiosity. Obviously, everyone knew that story was bullshit, and he gets 10 years behind bars. So while he is serving this 10-year sentence, he does what all psychopaths and sociopaths do when it is in their best interest. They become good model citizens. They go above and beyond what is expected of them because they know they're going to get something out of it. So Gacy becomes a quote-unquote model prisoner. He does a bunch of work to improve the lives of prisoners while he's in, blah, 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 whatever. He's still a trash human being. He's denied parole once in 1969. His father dies that same year, and he tries to get, I don't remember what it's called, basically where he's allowed to attend the funeral, and it gets denied as well. So surprise, surprise, he does not end up serving that full 10-year sentence. He really only serves like 18 months, I remember. Yeah, that's what, hi, baby. So on January 18th, got a burp, hold on. Come on, buddy. Spit it out. It'll come to me, whatever. January 18th, 1970, Gacy is granted parole with a 12-month probation. He is stated to have to live in Chicago with his mother, and he has to abide by a 10 p.m. curfew. Hey, Sugar Bush, put your butt down because your tail's on my face and I'm trying to do my makeup. And if you're already dumbfounded that he was released early after what he did, it gets worse. So, stipulations of parole, you can't get in trouble. You can't have any more run-ins with the law. Your basic stuff. So on, what year was that? Hold on, kids. I didn't write down the exact year, sorry, but less than a year later, he is charged with sexually assaulting a teenage boy. The charges are dropped, though, after the boy fails to appear in court. So in June 22nd of 1971, he is once more charged with aggravated sexual battery and reckless conduct. But the charges are dropped again because the complainant attempted to blackmail Gacy. And so they decided to just drop the charges altogether. So since Gacy, the first whole sentencing ordeal happened in Iowa, the Iowa Board of Parole was the one overseeing his parole, and they never caught wind of any of these charges at all. So not all of these accusations and charges went unnoticed because he would have been locked up again, but on October of 1971, his parole ends, and he's a free man. I hate that this gold kind of, it got to keep doing the black because the gold is all over it. How do you stop that? How do you stop that from happening? Because, how there's, sparkles in the gold, so when I blink, and I have very hooded eyelids, too, my eyelids are non-existent when I open my eyes, and so it'll transfer over to my lid instead of my upper brow or my brow area, you feel me? You understand what I'm saying, cousin? So Gacy, with the help of his mom, ends up buying a ranch house near the village of Nordage in Norwood Park Township. It is an unincorporated area of Cook County in metropolitan Chicago. He starts a part-time construction business known as PDM. This is in 1971. PDM standing for Painting, Decorating, and Maintenance. And Gacy would really only hire young teenage boys to work at this construction business. And he would often try to insist on sexual favors from his employees for things like lending them his vehicles, promoting them, giving them some kind of financial aid. So it's very apparent why he only hired these teenage boys. Hello. Cat, let me get you cat. Nonsense. Around this time, Gacy also discovers the Jolly Joker Clown Club, which he quickly becomes a member of. He would don his face paint, which looked absolutely terrifying. He had his own outfit that he had created, and he really just dived right into his clown sonas. He had two clown sonas, actually. It was either Pogo the Clown, or it was Patches the Clown. Patches was my first cat's name. And basically, he described Pogo as a very happy clown, and Patches as more of a serious character. Buddy, you're wearing face paint, wearing a clown outfit. I don't think there's anything serious about it. So, as this clown character, he would go to, parties and, events and fundraisers and stuff like that. He rarely made any money, but he said it was a way for him to regress into his childhood. So, January 3rd, 1972... Gacy picks up Timothy McCoy from a Greyhound bus station. McCoy was a runaway. He was traveling from Michigan to Omaha, Nebraska. Hey, Omaha, represent. So Gacy essentially takes Timothy sightseeing around the Chicago area. He tells Timothy that he would take him back to the bus station in the morning, and Timothy could stay at Gacy's house for the night. Like I said, he'd wake up in the morning, take him back to the bus station so Timothy could be on his way. Timothy obviously says yes to this, a nice warm place to stay. And later that night, Gacy murders Timothy and buries him in his crawl space. This is the first murder of Gacy's horrendous spree. I just found this other color in this goth palette, so I'm going to try to put it over this black and see if it enhances the look. So what Gacy would basically do is, since he owned this construction business, he would look to hire young boys who seem kind of like runaways that someone wouldn't miss if they disappeared. He would tell them, I've got this business, I pay really well, which he did, and if you want some work and some money, we'd be happy to have you. They would say yes, and that's how he would lure them into his house or into his vehicle. His modus operandi was that since he was a clown, he would tell the boys, oh, I'm going to show you this magic trick. And he would show them one of two magic tricks. One, quote, the handcuff trick or the magic rope trick. And so basically with the handcuff trick, he would trick these unsuspecting individuals into putting on a pair of handcuffs, and after they were on, he could do whatever he wanted with them. The magic rope trick would be him just being like, yeah, I'm going to show you this rope trick with this magic rope, and he basically puts the magic rope around their neck and chokes them. There was one incident with a boy that worked for him. He came over to Gacy's house and they were like smoking pot, just vibing, and the boy was a wrestler, and Gacy knew that, and he was like, come on, show me some moves, blah 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 blah. So they started wrestling around a little bit. Nothing like getting high and wrestling with your boss, your much older boss. And Gacy ends up putting the handcuffs on this kid, but he had only got like one click on the handcuff, so it was really loose, and the boy was able to slip his hands out of it. Gacy had left the room, so the boy slips his hands out of it and keeps him, acts like they're still cuffed, and when Gacy comes back, he pops up and does some wrestling maneuvers on him and gets the handcuffs on Gacy. And Gacy's like, oh, you passed the test, blah, 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 blah. And didn't expect to end up in his own cuffs. But that kid still worked for Gacy a little bit longer after that. And I'm just like, what weird times, just wrestling with your boss, nothing better. But also, he had no idea how close he was to his demise. What a scary thought. So along with him, tricking boys to coming into his house or whatever in promise of work, he also got some red lights for his vehicle, his car, or his truck or whatever. And he would turn them on and pull over vehicles, and he would tell, whoever was driving, usually a young boy, that he was an undercover cop and that, he's arrested, and once he got the handcuffs on him, he would abduct them. So just a little FYI if you weren't aware, if there is ever a time you are being pulled over and you do not believe, one, pull over in a populated area, and two, you are unsure if the person pulling you over is an actual police officer, you can dial 911, or, if you know the county you're in, you can dial the dispatcher number and ask them, like, hey, I'm being pulled over right now. These are the streets I'm on. Is this an actual police officer pulling me over? And they will confirm or deny if it is or isn't, because when a police officer is pulling someone over, they call it in before they initiate the traffic stop. And if it just so happens that it is not a police officer pulling you over, it's an imposter, they will dispatch an officer to you with the quickness. Now, by the end of 1977, Gacy had taken the lives of 19 young boys. And by 1978, he was murdering someone just about every 2 weeks. But as he was doing this, he started to believe that he was untouchable and that he was never going to get caught, so he started becoming very sloppy. So December 11th, 1978, Gacy visits the Nissen, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, pharmacy to discuss a potential remodeling deal with the store owner. It is there that Gacy meets 15-year-old Robert Piest, or Piest, sorry. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's like priest without the R. Or Piest, we'll say Piest, who is working at said pharmacy. Now, Gacy tells Robert that he often hires young teenage boys, and the starting wage is $5 an hour. And this is about double what Robert's making at the pharmacy currently. So Robert is liking what he's hearing, make some more money, you betcha, sister. And his mother shows up to pick him up from work. They had planned, she was going to pick him up from work, and they were going to go meet up with the rest of the family so they could go celebrate his mom's birthday. And he runs out to the car. He tells his mom, hold on a second. He states that some contractor wants to talk to me about a job. He tells her that he will be right back, and his mother is unaware that, this is the last time she will ever see her son alive. And about an hour later, Robert is strangled in Gacy's home. So after Robert fails to return home, his family files a missing persons report. Police do some investigating. They talk with the owner of the pharmacy. The owner tells them that Robert had left to go talk to Gacy about starting a job. So Lieutenant Joseph Kizinkak, I don't know how to say this dude's last name. Kizenczak. Kazinskak. Kazinkazak. I like that. Kazinkazak. But anyways, he chooses to investigate Gacy further. He basically knew, it was very clear to him that that Robert had definitely not run away from home, and he suspected foul play. So the following evening, 2 police officers, along with Lieutenant Kazinzakak. We're going to call him Lieutenant Kaizen because I really can't pronounce. Or we'll call him Lieutenant Joseph because Joseph is his first name. So him, as well as 2 police officers, they visit Gacy's home to ask him some question. Gacy basically tells law enforcement that he most certainly did not offer Robert a job, and he only asked him where the remodeling materials had been. Gacy seemed kind of distraught, and he tells police that he will come down to the station and make a statement himself. He promises he'll come down and make a statement himself, and that he's unable to do so at the moment because his uncle had just passed away. When officers asked how soon he would be able to come make a statement, Gacy responded, "You guys are very rude. Do you have any respect for the dead?" The fucking irony. So, at 3:02 in the morning, little old Gacy shows up to the police station. He's covered in mud. He claims that he had just been involved in a car accident. And I don't know if it was like him just being sloppy and not caring, but why wouldn't you go clean yourself up before going to make a statement to police about you being involved in a missing persons report? So Gacy denies any involvement in Robert's disappearance. Police ask him why he returned to the pharmacy later that day, and Gacy states that he had gotten a phone call from the owner that he had left his appointment book there. And detectives had already spoken with the owner of the pharmacy, and they know that he is lying about that detail. So, at request of detectives, Gacy prepares a written statement of his movements the day Robert disappeared. So, police end up searching Gacy's home, and they find a bunch of interesting items, clothing, stuff like that seemingly doesn't belong to Gacy. I heard one report where they had found a trap door and there was like bags of lime under his house, and they were just like, okay, whatever. Anyways, they find a high school ring though, and this ring has the initials JAS in them, and they're like, okay, well that's a little weird, but they didn't really find anything that would tie Gacy to Robert's disappearance. but they were sure that he had some kind of involvement in it. So they began surveillancing Gacy around the clock and kicking their investigation into overdrive. So they obtain a little bit more information, some in-depth information about the assault charges he had faced, and they also discovered that the ring that they had found in his house had belonged to a John Allen Szyc. It's spelled S-Z-Y-C. And surprise, surprise, our baby boy John had just disappeared, went missing in 1977. So, like I said, police are surveillancing Gacy now regularly, around the clock. And Gacy knows this, so he'll lead police on these very moderately sped chases, just driving around aimlessly till early hours in the morning. He would often invite the officers that were surveillancing him into his house for some, dinner, or, would invite them out to a restaurant, go to a bar, have a drink, or come inside his house and have a drink, stuff like that. So while investigators are putting together evidence to obtain a second search warrant for Gacy's home, he invites two of these surveillance detectives into his home, and they agree. They go inside. Once inside, they start talking, what have you. One of the officers excuses himself to use the bathroom. Now, when they had investigated, they found the ring that belonged to John. They had talked to John's mom, and she said that she thinks that a TV that John had, a Motorola TV, was stolen from his apartments after he had disappeared. Or his apartment, sorry. So as one of these officers is talking to Gacy, conversating, the other one excuses himself to go to the bathroom. He kind of starts, rummaging around Gacy's house. He finds what he believes to be the Motorola TV that belonged to John. He's unable to get the serial number off of it, though. And he ends up going into the bathroom and does his business. Now, this is around Christmas time, so it's very cold outside, which means Gacy has his heat running. And as the officer is finishing up in the bathroom, he notices the smell of absolute death coming out of the heat duct. And he's just like, wow, that's real weird. That's a little suspicious now, isn't it? So that whole ordeal, did I say the date? That was December 19th. I know I said it was cold outside, and I think I said it was in December, but I can't remember if I said the actual date. But anyways, these next coming days, Gacy kind of understands that the end is near. The police were afraid that he was going to take his own life before they could arrest him and extract a confession out of him. So one day Gacy is driving around and he's kind of saying goodbye to people, and he goes and sees this gas station attendant, and I forgot the person's name, but apparently they were friends. Gacy hands him a bit of, the devil's lettuce, and then he turns, the gas station attendant turns that over to the surveillance team. They end up arresting Gacy for possession and distribution of cannabis. So like I said, previously, Gacy already kind of knew that the end was coming, and before he was arrested for the cannabis, he was driving around saying bye to people. He was kind of confessing to his friends. He was telling them, I've done a really bad thing. I think he confessed to his lawyer in great detail about what he did, and would just, tell his friends, like I said, I did a really bad thing. I killed 30 people, which is not something you just bring up in casual conversation. But anyways, on December 21st, the second search warrant for Gacy's home is approved. Gacy, knew that was coming as well, even though he's in police custody. But before he was arrested, he had unplugged his sump pump and flooded the crawl space of his house. So police had to plug it back in, wait for all the water to drain out of there, and afterwards they sent in evidence technician Daniel Gently, and that reminds me of Derek Gently Holistic Detective Agency. Off topic, if you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure it's still on Hulu. I think, I could be wrong, but it's amazing. It's phenomenal. Go check it out. Anyways, evidence technician Daniel Gently had uncovered putrefied human flesh and an arm bone within minutes of digging. And he shouts to detectives, that they could charge Gacy with murder, adding, quote, I think this place is full of kids. So let's touch up this black a little bit. I like the purple. I think what we're going to do for eyeliner is, I have a gold eyeliner pencil. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but we're going to do a little bit more gold in the waterline section, then the rest is going to be black. We'll see how that mixes in. I hope it looks good. But anyways, in the early hours of December 22nd, Gacy provides a formal statement to police, which he confessed to murdering approximately 30 young males. He told investigators that most of them were buried in his crawl space, claiming that he had only dug 5 graves himself, making his employees dig the rest of the, telling them they were trenches. And so he would have graves readily available. And when he ran out of room under his house, he dumped his victims in the, I don't know how to say this, Des Plaines River. I don't know, man, but yeah, you get it. After the investigation had concluded, Gacy was brought to trial February 6, 1980. He was charged with 33 murders. During the trial, Gacy pretty much shows little to no remorse for his actions, as the family members of the victims, take the stand and give their testimonies. And it takes the jury like 3 hours to convict him on all counts and sentence him to death. So Gacy ends up spending 14 years on death row. He spends his free time appealing his case and also, painting. We've all seen the paintings that have gone around and sold. I heard a rumor that he didn't even paint those himself. He had like other inmates do it and just signed his name on it. But anyways, he is put to death on May 9th, 1994. His final meal is a bucket of KFC, a dozen fried shrimp, French fries, fresh strawberries. I know it's strawberries, but I like strawberries. And a Diet Coke, because you got to watch that figure. Reportedly, his last words were, "Kiss my ass." And that is the story of killer clown John Wayne Gacy. Like I said, there is a ton of information on this case. It's very well documented. The house he lived in as well, where he, committed these atrocities, I believe has been since demolished. Let me finish up this look, put some eyeliner on, what have you, and then we will pick our crime for our next episode. Alright, I think that is the extent of what we're going to do with this look. I just added a little bit of highlighter and a line and some liner and stuff like that. I have this gold liner pencil. I feel like it doesn't show up that well though. Anyways, I just added some of your suggestions to the murder pod, so we are going to figure out what crime we're going to cover next. Okay, well, we've already done Cowboy Bob. I thought I threw this away. Maybe I accidentally put it in there a different time? I don't know how that got back in there. Anyways, try again. Round 2. Charles Starkweather. I can't remember if this is one you guys suggested to me or if this is something I put in there. Name sounds familiar, but who knows. Anyways, that's what we're going to cover. Next weekend, I'm going to try to get something put out, but I got to drive to St. Louis Wednesday night and then Minneapolis Thursday with Austin, and then Iowa City. I play a show in Minneapolis Friday, play a show in Iowa City, then go back to St. Louis, then drive back to Kansas. So it's going to be a pretty busy weekend. So I don't know if I'm going to get anything but a vlog put out, but we will sure try our damnedest. I'm trying to think, is there anything I need, any information I need to pass on? I don't think so. I know we're going to do a Snacks Explains next, or the weekend where we are able to sit down and record. I've just been super busy, so I apologize for everything coming out so late. But I think everything will be cleared up in a couple weeks, so just bear with me, and then we will be back on schedule. But thank you so much for stopping by for another episode of Crime and Cosmetics. I will see you guys next week for at least a vlog. If you have a suggestion that for a case you want covered, leave it in the comments of this video, and we will throw it in the murder pot. I've got all these index cards we got to fill out, so let me know who you would like to see a video done on, and we will absolutely get to it. Be safe, be kind to others, be kind to yourself. Know that you are loved, you are valued, and you're cherished, and there's always a place for you here in this community. I will see you guys soon. Love you so much. Bye-bye.